We're talking about the Chicago Bulls' new look roster after the draft, after the free agency, the play style that we can employ, the new coach, Tiago Splitter. One of the things we have not spent a lot of time are the players that are going to be fighting for just any type of minutes on this team. And on today's episode, I want to look at those guys specifically. I want to look at Patrick Williams, Rob Dillingham, Dailyn Swain, Leonard Miller, and Noa Essengue. All these guys have varying degrees of strengths, right, and weaknesses, of course. But one thing is in common with all these guys. They're going to be an uphill battle for them for minutes on this roster because of the changes that we did make. And so the question I want to ask today is, who is the odd man out of the rotation, if not multiple of these guys being out of the rotation? We'll talk a little bit about that, plus Bill Simmons comparing Caleb Wilson and Tracy McGrady. We'll talk about all that, plus more, right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And I wanted to have this episode today where we focus on the guys that are going to have a really hard battle in training camp. They're going to have things that they're going to need in training camp just to even remotely make the rotation. And I will say this, outside of Leonard Miller, who I do think has the strongest chance to really be in the rotation in a meaningful way, I'm talking about 15 plus minutes for him. All these guys are going to have an upward battle to just get 8 to 10 minutes consistently with the way that things look like they're shaping up right now. Now, for those that heard at the beginning of the show, I did not mention Isaac Okoro as I'm focusing on the young players here, right? Like, I do think there's a chance Isaac Okoro can have a little bit of a tough time for minutes too, but that's kind of dependent on which one of these young guys step up as well, right? So I want to talk about this. And all these guys have different levels of fandom in the Chicago Bulls fan base, right? I think, Patrick Williams, there are still a large vocal community of Bulls fans that almost every video bring up how good Tiago Splitter is going to be for Patrick Williams. And then, of course, you have your Rob Dillingham truthers as well. While I like to, poke fun at those guys, there is a part of the community that thinks that Rob Dillingham is still going to be there. And then you look for Noa Essengue, Dailyn Swain. These are two, draftees, right? A second-year guy, Noa Essengue, a rookie in Dailyn Swain that, the fan base is kind of falling out of love with, even though I don't necessarily agree with that. But, they have to a degree, and they're trying to see what those guys are going to show when it all comes down to it. So these 5 players, I want to focus on these guys, and you'll see that like 3 of them play very similar positions as well. So I think when you look at it, right, the math just of the Chicago Bulls position group is going to be tough, right? The likely starters are Josh Giddey, Norman Powell, Modest, Caleb Wilson, Nic Claxton, right? And then you look at guys on the bench that are for sure going to have minutes. Tre Jones, Jalen Smith, Zach Collins if he's healthy. Those are 3 players right there that a lot of the minutes are going to go to. And like I said, when you're on a young roster, you want about 30 to 35-ish% of your minutes going to players that are above the age of 25, right? And so, those are the players that are going to shape to be that, with Isaac Okoro potentially, if none of these other young guys stepping up as well. So that right there presents a minutes crunch, right? You have Tre Jones as your backup point guard, who's also going to probably play some shooting guard minutes, maybe not as much under Tiago. You have Jalen Smith that's going to split minutes between the 4 and the 5. And then you have Zach Collins that, when he's healthy, is going to play the 5, right? The backup 5 role. And so that leaves, of course, the backup 2, which could go to Isaac Okoro minutes, depending on if Dailyn Swain's ready or not. And then, of course, like Leonard Miller, who can play the 3 and the 4, as well as some small ball 5 if you need him to, right? So Patrick Williams, Rob Dillingham, Dailyn Swain, Leonard Miller, Noa Essengue. These guys are going to be battling for limited disposable roles. Now, I do think those roles can grow depending on it. The way that I look at it is this. If you remember Ayo Dosunmu's rookie, I'm not comparing any of these players to Ayo, but if you remember Ayo Dosunmu's rookie year, he was in there as a defensive weapon. And then as Billy Donovan started trusting him a little bit more, that role grew and grew and grew, eventually to where he took over as a starting point guard because Lonzo went down. But even before that, his minutes were on the rise, right? So I think that this could be a path to this. So I want to talk about each of these guys and what their path forward is for minutes on this team and the chances that they're going to actually make the rotation. Number 1, Patrick Williams. I'm going to mention Patrick Williams first because he's the longest tenured Bull. He's a player that, it comes down for P. Will to this. If P. Will can just be what he was at his height. I'm not even talking about him taking his game a step further. I'm not even talking about him hitting some major leap under Tiago Splitter. I'm just talking about him being back to a player that can average 10 points per game, shoot the ball efficiently from three, that 3-and-D role in Tiago Splitter's system, and what this Bulls team needs as far as some more defensive punch, it could get him there. Now, I'm not going to say some of the crazy things that some other people said, like play P. Will at the 2 or anything like that. This isn't even about position for him. And even people are like, well, his natural position is the 3. There's really no difference in playing the 3 or the 4 in the modern NBA. You're asked to do very similar of the same things. But what P. Will is going to have to do is show that the last couple of years aren't just fluky shooting for him. The last couple of years have been bad shooting-wise. We're talking about him being a sub 34% shooter over the last 2 years. He has to get back to being better than that. If he can, there's some chance for him to really step up in regards to that. Again, I'm not the biggest P. Will guy. I don't necessarily believe in P. Will either, but I do want to shoot him the fair one in this one. What P. Will is going to have to do to gain minutes on this team is going to have to guard wings and going to have to guard forwards. He's going to have strong defense in guarding those guys. He's going to have to shoot and make the open threes, which is things that he's done seldomly over the last 2 years. He's going to have to rebound physically, right? And those type of things that we've done. Averaging 7 points, 3 rebounds last season while shooting 37% from the field and 34% from 3 is not going to cut it for P. Will, right? And so I think when it comes down to it, the problem with P. Will continues to not be talent. There's not the talent isn't the problem there. It's the possession impact. It's his desire to want to be good. It's the in between the ear things for that. Patrick Williams does not need to be special anymore. That ship has come and gone. He doesn't need to be some special player anymore. But what he does need to be is consistent in shooting and defending and those type of things. If he can do that, then you can have a role on this team. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge role, but you can have a role on this team. Now, does it grow from that point? Maybe, right? If P. Will can shoot around 37% or better from 3, he can have a role in this one. I think when you look at the mandate for P. Will in training camp, it has to come to this one. He has to be more reliable than the other guys that are in this conversation, in this competition for those minutes. He's not necessarily the more talented one, but if he can be the more reliable one because he has been in the league the longest, there will be a pathway for Patrick Williams to potentially get minutes here. He's only 24 years old, right? 24. So you can't really close the door on him yet. Again, I'm not the biggest P. Will guy, but at the same time, I know there are some people that really do still want to see P. Will get another opportunity at it, but he's going to have to fight because ain't nothing being given to P. Will no more. He's not walking in to minutes. The coach that was here when he was drafted is gone. The front office that was here when he was drafted is gone. He's not walking in and getting that, and we got to see. Next up, Rob Dillingham. Now, Rob Dillingham has his fans in the fan base. It is what it is. I've told you guys the thing for me that stood out the most about Rob Dillingham, if anything, was his passing. That was the thing that really stood out for me and something that was good for him. I think when you look at Rob Dillingham, who averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.8 assists after getting traded to the Chicago Bulls last season, when you look at him, the thing that he has to do is that when you look at what this bench unit is missing, it's missing a polished scorer. And while I do think Rob Dillingham's passing is his pathway to being a really good NBA player, because you get those turnover downs and pass, you can get there. But the Bulls are they're gonna need somebody who can beat players off the dribble. They're gonna need somebody who can create their own shot because we don't have a lot of those guys on this one. And the speed that he does have to be able to change in that change of pace potentially could get him in regards to that one. If this guy can produce points without Josh Giddey being on the court or Tre Jones creating those open shots for him, that's going to be something that he can do that we don't have a lot of guys that can be able to do that on this team right now for the Chicago Bulls. So I think the biggest hurdle for him as well is, can he survive defensively? Rob Dillingham is not a defender at all. He's listed as 6'2" and 175 pounds. I think that height is giving him a little bit too much as well. I think he's more like 6 foot, 6'1". And so he's going to be targeted. On the defensive side of the ball, teams are going to try to target him, setting tough screens for him, seeing if he can fight over those screens. Those are the type of things that he's going to have to prove that he can do, especially if he's going to be more of a scorer, and we'll see. Now, the way that he can hide that we can hide that is that you do have defenders in Isaac Okoro, Patrick Williams, Caleb Wilson, Modest, who's grown as a scorer, Nic Claxton, right? And so you have a potential to surround him with defenders, and then at that point, maybe his scoring can step out and his passing can help those guys who don't create their own shot too. So we'll see, right? I'm not expecting Dillingham to grow into some 20-minute per game 6-man role. I'm not expecting that. But I think when you look at it, for the camp mandate for Rob Dillingham, and that's what I'm using for all these guys, is like things that you want to see from these guys in training camp, is that he has to be too valuable offensively to be left out of the rotation, especially for a team that's going to need some scoring punch off the bench. If he can do that, there could be a pathway for him to get consistent minutes here. Again, I'm not the biggest Rob Dillingham guy, but hey, I'm not going to count him out because, again, young players, sometimes they need a change of scenery, a change of coach, a change of style, and you may never know who blossoms late into their career. So maybe that can be Rob Dillingham. I'm trying to keep it positive in regards to this episode, right? Next up, Dailyn Swain. Now, you guys know I'm not as down on Dailyn Swain as some people are after Summer League. It is what it is in that regard. I think all the potential that was there in Dailyn Swain is still there. Regardless if you think that Bryson Graham reached on him to draft him too early or anything, there's legitimate talent there. And I think for him, again, much like with Rob Dillingham, but he has more two-way upside. If Dailyn Swain can prove himself to be any type of scoring threat, that's the thing. So when you look at his pathway to getting minutes on this team is the defense, much like Io early in his career. Can you guard guards? Can you guard wings? Can you guard 2 or 3 positions? Because that's going to get you some minutes. Rebound as well. Be a solid rebounder per your position on top of that. Move without the ball. You have players that can create for you in point guards that you didn't have in Summer League. Move without the ball. Cut. Those type of things. Do that. Make the smart pass, right? You don't have to run the offense like you did, like they were trying to get you to do in Summer League, but make the smart pass. And then also bring energy, bring transition play without demanding touches, right? If you can do those things, that's going to put Dailyn Swain in a position where he can get minutes here. I think his biggest hurdle comes down to his jumper and his confidence now after what happened in Summer League for him. That confidence seems to be shook, right? So you're going to need that confidence to get back into a better space and area for you. If that does, things can look much better for you in the long run. Let's see if that can happen, right? And so I think when you look at this is that if he can make it to where defenders can't ignore him, right? That's going to be a big thing for Dailyn Swain. Make it to where defenders just can't ignore you and that they have to guard you because you're putting pressure on what that team can do. If you do that, things can look pretty good for you. On top of that, I think when it comes down to this one for him as well, don't chase points. Don't worry about chasing points. You don't have to be the college scorer that you were, but can we trust you on possessions? Can we trust you to be a player that can bring those type of things? Can we trust you to do anything consistently? If you can bring some type of two-way impact for this team, then you have a role here. You don't need to be shooting a bunch of threes or anything like that. Just do what you did well in college, double down on that, and do that consistently to a different level. You don't have to be the same level of player you were in college, but do it to a different level, and you never know what could come out of this season for you. So let's hope that happens for Dailyn Swain. Again, I think that Swain still has tons of potential here. I still think that he's a player that can absolutely help the Bulls right now, but he's going to have to go out there and prove it because after that Summer League, ain't nothing being guaranteed for you, my boy. Next up, Leonard Miller. I think Leonard Miller has the best pathway of all these guys. You know, yes, what Leonard Miller showed last year was in March basketball. That's a thing, right? But I think when he got that real opportunity from the Chicago Bulls, he did the most with it, right? But in that 27 games with the Bulls last season, 12 of those being starts, 11.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, 23 minutes per game. He shot the ball 55% overall and 35% from three. Now, I'm not expecting him to do that this season, right? Shooting 35% from three, we'll see. Shooting 55% from the field, maybe he's going to be able to live around the rim a lot, especially with guys like Josh Giddey doing the ball and stuff like this. The competition is going to be there for him, but he should be ahead of Patrick Williams at this point. And so he could be that first forward off the bench after Jalen Smith, but Jalen Smith could end up playing a lot of center minutes because we don't know what's going to happen with Zach Collins. I think when you look at this, what Leonard Miller brings to this team potentially is being a transition runner, an offensive rebounder. He has really strong offensive rebounding numbers for him. The cutting on the weak side was really good for him. He brought the energy consistently as a defender as well, and the fact that he can play and guard 3 through 5 is really good for him as well. If he can finish around the rim consistently, especially in transition with the lobs and things that he's going to get, is going to be there. The biggest hurdle for him, I really think, comes down to some of the redundancy that you have in skill set with him and some of the other forwards. But redundancy doesn't necessarily mean something bad. It means that you can keep up the same similar style of play and get there. Leonard Miller just has to not settle just being another long athlete on the team. He has to distinguish himself. He has to bring it consistently, and those are things that are going to be there. If he makes himself really useful when Zach Collins is off the court, Nic Claxton's off the court, those type of things, in the off-court Caleb Wilson minutes, those type of things. That's where you can be there. Defending regularly, playing two-way basketball, finishing efficiently, those type of things, rebounding really well. I think when you look at the camp mandate that I have here for Leonard Miller, it comes down to turn your activity into a replicable skill that you can repeat and do night in and night out. Be consistent. Bring a certain level of play. You do that, there's going to be minutes here for Leonard Miller, and I think he has a chance to really thrive here and get more minutes than he ever got in Minnesota. And this could be an important part because he's a restricted free agent at the end of the year, and the Bulls can need to make a long-term decision on Leonard Miller ASAP. And so I think that's going to be a big part for this team as well. And the last player that I want to talk about on this list is Noa Essengue, and this is an interesting one. Of course, Noa Essengue did not look the same way he did in his first summer league and his second summer league, and it's caused some concern from the Chicago Bulls fans, right? And I think that when you look at this one, Noa Essengue is probably destined for the Windy City Bulls. Like, I think he's kind of destined to go and maybe start off the season down in the G League, right? And I think in regards to this one, it's not necessarily about Noa Essengue trying to get on the, like, he should be fighting for a spot on the opening rotation, right? Like, nobody should come into it and just be resigned to going to the G League. That's too much of Patrick Williams shit. But I do think with this one, he only played 2 games last year and a total of 6 minutes across those games last season as well. And then when you look at his limited sample size in the G League, where he did average 23 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2.3 assists, there is some real talent there in Noa Essengue. The question about it is how much of that translates over to actual NBA talent, right? And that's the thing you're going to have to look in regards to that one. The original scouting profile for Noa Essengue lists him as a transition creator that can, score in the half court based off setting screens, cutting, those type of things, and somebody that can get to the free throw line. I think for this, what he's going to have to do for Noa Essengue, it comes down to the strength, the physicality, and finishing through contact, right? That's going to be your role at the NBA level. Block shots, rebounds, getting in transition, and playing physical. And the physicality right now seems like it's been a very tough thing for him. And not only the physicality with him being on offense, but also setting those screens, right? These are things that he's going to have to be solid to good at to be able to really make that next step as a player and even be a functional NBA player. If you can do that, I think those things will look pretty good for him. Right now, can he get into the rotation early on? It's going to be an uphill battle for him between, Dailyn Swain and Leonard Miller both kind of being at the positions that suit him best. You already got Jalen Smith at one of those. Of course, you got the starters. It's going to be there. But I think what the opportunity for Noa Essengue comes down to is that if there's any injuries or if there's any type of rest on players on back-to-backs, especially early on, those type of things, that's where Noa Essengue is going to have to live at and really make a name for himself if he wants to get into this rotation. The thing that I look at him that I want to see Noa Essengue do in training camp is show enough mental awareness and physicality that you can deal with, that they look at a real developmental plan for you and then get you into the rotation. I think it's going to be hard for him, but I think the hierarchy is going to be tough for him. I think the physicality is going to be tough for him overall. But I think if he can deal with those things, you can see a path for Noa Essengue eventually. May not be to the end of the season, but we're going to see what happens in regards to this one overall and see what happens. But that's my thought process, right? The Bulls have talent on this team. Where that talent ends up leading them, we've already talked about. It matters on how they're going to fare in the Eastern Conference and all those type of things. But I think Tiago Splitter is going to have to find lineups and combinations of players that work. And this isn't the NHL where you're doing hockey lineups, right? So you're not just playing your bench players with your bench players and stuff like that. And so those different combinations is where some of these players can try to make themselves a name for themselves. And we'll see if they can do that. Overall, let me know what you guys think down below. Which player or players do you think is going to have a tough time cracking the rotation? Let me know that down below. With that said, Bill Simmons made a comparison for Caleb Wilson. And he said this: I was on record as saying I thought Caleb Wilson was the most undervalued guy at the draft, even at 4. I think there's a real case or just trade back, and he may be the best player anyway. He comes in, he hits threes, he looked very T-Mac-ish to me. That was one of that jumped out to me. I was like, this is like watching T-Mac again. Now, he did talk about that, Caleb Wilson has a similar body frame to Tracy McGrady and those type of things, and the Bulls fans should be excited. And here's what I'll say. I've seen already some really hot takes in regards to that comparison and that comp. This is why I hate comps. I don't really think that Caleb Wilson is very much like Tracy McGrady at all. And like I said, even with the KG thing, I think at some point we got to stop trying to make Caleb Wilson the next anybody and just realize he wants to be the first Caleb Wilson. And that's perfectly fine. That's actually where you want him to be at. And I think that's where he's going to make a name for himself. That's what is is he a combination of a few players? Does he have some skills or some traits of a couple of players? Sure. But be the first Caleb Wilson. Be great. Be big for the Chicago Bulls. And that's all that you really have to do. I know there are going to be wild expectations on him as a rookie and stuff like that. And really, I don't really care about any of that. Just go out there. If he has a normal rookie season, that's perfectly fine. If he has a transcendent rookie season, that's even better, right? And there could be somewhere in between those two things. But I think overall, like, I can already see it. If Caleb Wilson has, like, the first month of his career, it's just a perfectly normal rookie, there are going to be some Bulls fans that have some wild takes in regards to, like, oh, well, he's not going to be generational. Like, just calm down. Let's see what's going to happen in regards into the long run with that one. But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. Man, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and what you guys mean to this channel. You guys are the most important part of this channel. I've upgraded the camera on this channel and upgraded so much, and I couldn't do any of that without you guys. You guys are so important to the lifeblood of this channel, what we mean and what we're trying to do here day in and day out. I want to say thank you for you guys for just being you. And we're going to continue killing it this offseason. We're going to continue killing it this season. And this is going to be a really fun season for the Chicago Bulls. But sound off down below on how you feel about all this that we talked about today on every topic and just generally how you feel about the Chicago Bulls. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of Breaks